Hi everyone, this is Janelle Klein, founder of Open Mastery and creator of Open Mastery Learning Framework. So this is the 5-minute overview of what we'll be doing at Open Mastery. So first of all, what's the problem we're trying to solve? Why should you care about anything I have to say? So across the industry, you see this pattern where every few years we end up rewriting our software after driving one project after another into the ground. So why does this happen? Well, we start off with the best of intentions. We're going to write high quality code that's low in technical debt, easy to maintain, and of course it's got to have good code coverage. And then this happens. We've got this business pressure and urgency to deliver features as fast as we can, and things just start to unravel. And so we tell the product owner about our pain, but they don't really understand the benefits. So what do you think they pick? The benefits that make sense. And then one decision after another, we keep compromising safety for speed. And like a toy lift out on the stairs, it doesn't really matter in the short term, but as the risks build, all the chaos starts to get out of control. And it starts with the time pressure building, and then we start compromising safety for speed, which increases the number and severity of safety hazards, which leads to more pain and higher task effort, which ultimately comes back to more time pressure, and we get caught up in this vicious cycle. Then eventually we get so stressed out and exhausted from the constant explosions, and we go out for drinks as a way to cope with our lives as firefighters, and eventually the conversation turns into absolute hopelessness, and we all start looking for new jobs. I give up. I don't care anymore if this project fails. And the awesome Ferrari that we poured our hearts into for years gets crushed by this relentless business pressure. So this is the core problem we're trying to solve. This is the root cause of failure in our industry, the communication problems within our organizations. Managers and developers might as well be speaking different languages. So when I say Open Mastery Learning Framework is a top-to-bottom, data-driven improvement framework specifically designed to overcome the communication and coordination challenges in software organizations, I guess that is kind of a mouthful, this is the problem that I'm trying to solve. So how do we solve this problem? So this is where our visibility comes in. So about 8 years ago, I was working on this really great team, and we were constantly working on improvements. But despite all these things, I watched my project hit a wall, and I didn't really know what was causing our problems. So I started measuring my painful interactions with the code and visualizing it on a timeline like this. So the pain started when I ran into some unexpected behavior and ended when the problem was resolved. So this is 5 hours and 18 minutes of troubleshooting time. And most people will agree that's pretty painful. And so I started breaking down all these problems into categories. And what I discovered that most of the pain was actually caused by human factors. For example, stale memory mistakes. So this is when I have an idea in my head about how the code is supposed to work, but it doesn't work that way anymore because somebody changed it. Or ambiguous clues. This is when you're running an experiment and there's multiple possibilities for how a behavior can occur, and you make a bad assumption and down the rabbit hole you go. So this isn't really a problem with the code itself. Pain is a consequence of how we interact with the code. So think about pain as something that occurs during the process of understanding and extending the software. So I started optimizing for idea flow, this flow of ideas between the developer and the software, rather than optimizing for the code itself. And I did that with a data-driven feedback loop. Then by categorizing all these different types of problems I was running into, we could start adding up the time spent for each category and figure out what was causing our biggest problems. So setting up test data to support development tasks in this example was taking almost 700 hours per month across the team. And it's pretty scary when you start adding these things up. So suddenly this starts to look really ridiculous that we're not fixing these things because the costs of ignoring the problems are often enormous. So another amazing thing when I started aggregating this data was that you could see this long-term pattern that we always talk about in software development of pain building up over time. So the high-level pattern kind of looks like this. So learning time is always front-loaded in the release while the team tries to figure out what they're going to do. And then there's this rush before the deadline where validation ends up deferred until the end, and there's all this troubleshooting time. And then over time, the pain builds. You can see the baseline friction level steadily rising. And eventually chaos reigns and the work stops fitting within the time box. So in this last release, I'm charting capacity hours over time here. So you can actually see the developers had to work twice as many hours to get the release out the door. So visibility truly changes everything by giving us a data-driven feedback loop at the engineering level and an ability to communicate our problems to management. So Open Mastery Learning Framework is a strategy for overcoming the communication and coordination challenges in our software organizations through visibility. And with a data-driven feedback loop at the engineering level, we can start using the scientific method for making better quality improvement decisions. And by translating our problems into the language of risk, we can create visibility for managers to make better investment decisions. So if we zoom out, this learning framework becomes a high-level steering system for driving the entire organization from top to bottom with science. So this is the big picture of where we're headed. So consider this framework a starting point to a conversation. Our organizational blueprints are pretty broken. This problem is rampant across the industry, and we've got an industry full of awesome engineers. So I'm saying let's take responsibility for solving this problem, learning how to get there, and teaching the people in our industry how to succeed. And that's what Open Mastery is all about.